Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 23rd. Ooh, my topics are wrong, or not perfectly correct, but welcome to the 23rd episode of the HSBG podcast. I'm your host, Educatedcollins. I'm here with my constant co-host, Shady Bunny. Shady, how you doing?
I am doing great, Collins. Loving the game. Everything's going well. How are you doing?
I skipped this week because I'm practicing for a tournament in a different game, but that's not for But other than
Cheating
that,
on BGs on the side. Okay.
but other than that, I've been doing pretty good. The day kind of passed. But moving on, we always talk about our weekly BG overview, which I am not contributing this week.
That's a great start.
Doesn't work this week.
Oh man.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
my week's been great.
hey,
It's just been I can't even remember, like, I guess I can look at my tracker what my MMR was like, right? So I had, I think, under 12K less than a week ago, question mark, or something. And now we're pushing 13. So it's been going really well. I've been just playing incredibly aggressive, just tier, shoot for the moon. And so often it's been working out and just taking first. And it really feels like that's how you climb. The occasional eighth is like whatever. The just the string of first places is really what's making me go up.
You're slowly sounding more like me.
Yeah. The meta has necessitated it. I think that it's also important when you have a playstyle to not really get too locked into that if it doesn't work. If you have a playstyle and everything's going well,
See, that's
fine,
the issue.
Yeah, I was crushing it with tier 4,
Yeah.
right? A while back. So I was like, yeah, sure. I was front page with tier 4. I was like, yeah, obviously it's working, right? But then it wasn't. So now we're learning tier 6, and now tier 6 is working. So yeah, it's been very fun for me.
Sounds really good. I'm glad that things are working out. I'm glad you're learning the real strats. Not
It's a
obviously
different
kids.
game.
Yeah.
It's a different game. No, I agree with it where it's hard to explain, but once you learn how to just utilize all those pieces on the higher tiers, it's a completely different game. Like, it's just your board goes from one turn okayish to two Amalgadons perfect, and a Caligos Nadina or something. Like on tier 6, you can, I think Hamul was like a big factor in making tier 6 better, because the amount of times where you Hamul and you hit a dong and something and just like, oh, extra dong, sure, right? It's just such a power spike.
Yeah, Hamul's been okay. Like when I didn't like it when I first it was revealed. I was like, Hamul, my discoveries. But then I realized I just go to 6 anyways. So when you're at 6, Hamul's like really effective, right? Just
for tier 6 gaming, it's amazing. Oh, but apparently I'm a bit loud compared to you on the sound balance, so maybe we want to fix that before we go further.
the question is, do I get louder or do you get softer, right? Like what's the right
I'm fine with
approach
this.
here?
Chat, let us know.
Yeah.
So yeah, Hamul, such a dud when you triple into it, but such a powerhouse when you're like, roll drive by Hamul, let's just throw it down. You're like, Hamul pirates, right? I do that so often with 2 hoggers. You just know you're going to be buying the whole shop. Today, I had a Silas game with 2 hoggers. I rolled Hamul. Everything had a ticket. It was like ding, 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 ding. 6 drop, boom, boom, boom. That was the best drop ever, man. That was so good.
That's do you like even have tickets. Enough time to do that?
I tried it. Yeah, I got the 2/6 drops, but it's like you don't finish the turn because after you Hamul Hogger, you haven't spent any money. Everything's free, right? So you're still on 10 gold after buying the whole shop. But yeah, you get
so
2/6
drops. So what I'm hearing is you just
you have enough time to buy the whole shops, discover the 6
shop,
and then you just start rolling, and it's like Monka's tier panic rolls. You usually end up just buying a ticket here or there to just prep the next 6 row.
Sounds fun. Also stressful, but also fun.
It's a lot of fun.
But
Yeah,
probably stressful too.
I ended up discovering 3 rags, and I was like, okay, I guess no 2 rags, and
So
then there
you
was a rag with
sold your hoggers, is what I'm hearing.
no. This was the beautiful part.
No.
I kept 2 hoggers. Well, you have to keep 2 hoggers because every time. Okay, so I also had a golden brand.
Oh, did you? You didn't
So
mention that.
yeah. Well, I mean, when you have Silas and 2 hoggers, you just get tickets for free the whole time. So you just get brands, you get 6 drops and all that. And man, they were taunted as well. So then strong shells are just like it's just beautiful, beautiful.
All right, I'm done with that.
You
You're a
said your
mega high
screenshot.
road, yeah.
Yeah, but that's been all my not all my games, but a lot of my games. Another game, like you would have loved, like man, was so aggro, Collins. What I did was I was playing Bran and I was doing the tier 1 curve, and then I banked an alley cat in my hand where I'm just like, if I hit Bran, that's a 5 drop. So then I hit the Bran. I was able to put Bran hero power, then double token triple that turn to get double Mithrex and some types. That then carried the round. I then tiered up.
Yeah, of course.
So then I went from 4 to 5, bought a Primal Fin, sold something off my board to be able to afford that, held, play down a unit, next turn, tier 6, then play the Primal Fin, discover more tokens, get the Malgadon, buy an alley cat from the shop, and be like 6 drop, 6 drop, 6. So my board after 2 turns was 3 Amalgadons, because I'd hit like 5 Amalgadons, and then yeah, because every Primal Fin you buy is 3, right? You have a golden brand. Like every Primal Fin is 3 discoveries. So it's just like.
But you had a golden brand at the time?
Yeah, so I get golden brand with the Reno.
Oh, I thought you were playing brand.
Oh, maybe I said it wrong. I was playing Reno.
Oh, you're playing. Oh,
and I bought a token.
Okay.
And I was going all in, right?
Okay.
So every token is a triple, right? Every token is a triple. So yeah, I was not done scaling when that game ended. It was like turn 12 or something. Everybody did. Everyone I fought was just the brand was in the back and never ever attacked because everything was dead.
Yeah, of course.
Brand was just a static +5 damage. So yeah, like but it's been beautiful because I've just been leveling really aggressively and I've just been thinking, okay, how can I high roll? And if I can think of enough ways, okay, this could happen, that could happen. So I would have never done that before, where I just like buy the alley cat and say like, well, if I hit a brand, this is absolutely amazing.
I like it, Shady.
All right, let's move on.
Yeah, sounds really fun. I want to be there.
It's been good. It's been good.
I still have been. I haven't really done tournaments, but because I was, doing practicing and whatnot. But we still have a tournament to do on Friday. If you do want to participate, exclamation marks lineup. I will be working on that after today's stream. Just get everything set up. I do like it. It's been fun. I don't know how or what the format's going to look like moving forward. Right? We had one every week. Right? It was hectic. Now that I haven't had it, maybe it's less hectic. But I don't know if maybe I like the hecticness of just doing it every day, but maybe I don't, right? I have to think about it after tomorrow. But yeah, definitely if you are interested in participating, feel free to join and have some fun playing some tournaments. I'm looking for, prizing and sponsorship, so we'll see how that goes in the future. But for now, join if you want to. After that, I should also mention, I am casting in Nicolina's Mooncorn tournament on Saturday. So if you do like casting, or if you want more casting, right, you could also join the Mooncorn stream that she has every week as well. So definitely take a look at that if you want some high-level gameplay, some medium-level casting. After that, after that, we've got our hero to discuss for the week. We've got Death Speaker Blackthorn. I think this hero's been pretty interesting, right? It's kind of unassuming whenever I look at the hero. It's like, oh, just 2 blood gems. You level, you get 2/2/2. It doesn't really matter. But just the ability of getting stats when you level, right? It lets you play a little bit more aggressively and not get like crazy punish, right? You can just level to 3, level to 4 if you feel. and just look for those one key units, right? Because especially in the early game, having like one good unit is like sometimes better than like four bad ones,
Yeah.
or
You
even
can, if you
yeah,
have this like giant ritualist with like one unit next to it that just like farms the whole board, or
yeah.
just like a bunch of alley cats attacking into it, or divine shield or whatnot. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's the quality, not the quantity.
I mean, sometimes it is the quantity, especially in the early game, right? Like that's the Millhouse strat, just like
Just
overrun them.
overwhelm them with
Yeah.
sheer. Just throw grunts at them. Just keep going, Swabbies. We'll get through eventually.
Yeah, but just the in the early game, just the ability to really buff up one key unit, right? It ends up saving you a lot, and then you're also higher level than your opponent. So, I think the hero, even though like you can kind of say, oh, this is basically KT. I think it's not KT in terms of like how you play it and how it performs. What do you think,
Well,
Sid?
it's the exact opposite where Kale can't level and proc it, and this guy
Yeah.
procs it by leveling. So
Yeah.
it's way better
I,
than Kale.
I'm
Yeah.
saying the argument of like KT is like, oh, +2 blood gems, periodically. This is like the same thing, or +2+2. That's what I meant.
Yeah, but
Periodically,
what
this
I
is the same
mean
thing.
is Kale needs to stay
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah,
actually
yeah.
proc it,
I
right? So
agree, but
yeah, okay,
I'm saying like someone would make that argument. Yeah. Oh,
sure,
yeah, it's the
sure.
same. And I would disagree. That's my point. Well, any thoughts on it, Shady?
Yeah, so I just don't think I've been getting him offered that often because I haven't like I'm thinking about yeah, I mean it's actually a pretty good power leveler and there's probably nothing wrong with playing him, but I'm just having a look at the stats. I think he's probably just still a bit middle of the pack, right? Oh, yeah, it's just one of those heroes where you want to open a good buff target early so you can just it's just like when you're playing Edwin or something, you're just like, all right, I just need my deflecto, I just need something so I can dump the gems. This guy gets to do it on the Divine Shield quill board, the Tusky, the 4/3.
Mm-hmm.
If you hit that one, it's amazing because you can just ration your blood gems where you'll never run out as long as you keep leveling and you have this huge Divine Shield. We talked about Ritualist a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
that's one that's a bit more awkward because you need to keep adding units to the board to have at least 3 units to get full value there. One of the strategies I see as well is just start with a homunculus and then just jam that up because it's okay. It's got 4 health. Now that is a bit more of a low roll strat, but what you do is you start with homunculus and then you just add a unit on the 5 gold turn, and then on the 6 and the 7 gold turn you just level, and you just keep jamming.
To try to mitigate health as you level.
Yeah, to just say like, hey, this is a 4 health minion, and the reason why it's usually not that great, it's only got 2 damage, so it doesn't return kill. But the moment you slap gems on it, it will return kill everything, so it just gets additional HP then. One of the more common things to do though is like the regular power level curve, and then just get a fast 3, and then go to 3 on 5 gold, and then hope to find Bronze Ward and hope to find Deflecto, and then just have a bunch of gems. But especially in prize lobbies, I've been liking just buying on 5 gold, and then as the prize hits on 6 gold, I tend to tier because you either get the coins or you get gotcha or you get something.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the time you can just tier. And this guy probably does that really well, where you tier, and you just keep getting, you don't keep getting stronger, but you get a little bit of compensation for leveling.
Yeah, for leveling early.
I guess another cool thing as well is with Ground Shaker, when you get it on this guy, you always have this like, oh, well, if I don't hit gems, I can always just hit the level and I get 2
Right.
gems. So that's another way to get the 6 with Blackthorn is you have a shaker and it's like level, use the gems, level, use the gems.
Yeah, there's a lot of like little things you can do because you're getting blood gems and not like bananas, right? Where there are things you can do because of the blood gem where you can't really do, right? Like Mukla would be jealous, in terms of like, oh, it's the same, but Mukla's like, no, it's not the same, right? Blood gems are
You can hit an early brute as well. That's also the nuts, right? The 3/3 that grows +3/+3 for every gem.
Yeah, and
yeah.
It's also something where you can transfer it over, right? Where bananas you can't
That's the
really do
big
that.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so You get something really good and transfer, and you're ready. You're good to go.
It makes you feel less anxious about committing them because you know that, oh, if I see the 3/3, I can just put it on my cleave, put it on my shield.
Yeah, sometimes with Mukla, you're like holding your bananas because you're like,
Yeah.
I want to wait until I get something right. Here, you can kind of play it and be like, okay, as long as I'm keeping this minion and I get to transfer, I just fix it. So it's not a big problem just committing. So there are a little bit of.
I was looking at the win rates, and it's like expected. He's doing like more than fine. He's like 2 spots below Omu to put it in reference when we look at the top 10% or so. Or
There
top
is
1%.
there is like a little gap though between Omu and the next person, right? Like, yeah,
Bit of a drop off. Well,
yeah,
that's normal, right? It's Omu.
yeah. Like,
But yeah, I mean, to give a little bit more reference, above Rafam, above Grebo, above Millhouse, above Alakir. So that is good company right there.
yeah, that's I would say almost surprising in terms of.
I think it's because it's hard to mess it up. Yeah, level gets stronger, right? So maybe sometimes, when people should be leveling but they aren't, they do it on this hero because they get rewarded for it. So that could be driving it as well, where it's a little easier to take that plunge, be like, oh, I guess I'll tier.
It's making you play better.
Yeah, I have this new philosophy where if the shop is bad, I'll just go up to unreasonable extents sometimes, where I'm just like, oh, I'm not buying bad units, I'm just going up.
I think that makes a lot of sense, just generally, just because you commit so much buying bad units, and then sometimes like you bait yourself, you're buying pairs and things like that. And you're like, do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? And if you're like, and the another issue is like if you get one good unit, right? Like it doesn't matter how many bad units you buy, you're gonna lose. You're always gonna be behind, right? The same thing happens. In Storybook too, right? Like if you just waste money buying bad units, like you're always behind.
It catches up with you, right? All your decisions, they just catch up with you later. So you can either buy bad units and die for sure a couple turns from now, or you can go up and maybe not find anything and die, or find something and still have a chance.
Yeah, you get the chance to win as well. Yeah, so I mean that's how
what a shift in philosophy, but it's been a shift in meta as well. I used to be a big proponent of not taking the chance.
My meta internally has not changed whatsoever. Only Shady's has. I just want to tell you that.
Also like to distinguish himself from this dirty tier 4 game. Like, I've never done it. I did not buy that arm in that module.
That's not true. You've definitely made me.
I've never gained MMR playing arm. That's not who I am.
All right, maybe we influence each other just a little bit, but yeah, I distinctly remember. Yes, this is a Shady strat. Like just like all the time. Sometimes when I'm playing,
dude, it's crazy. I just find myself saying like, "Oh, I'm being cheesed by arm now." Like my Mithrax gets one shot. Oh, disaster.
Feels bad, but overall, I think the hero is pretty good. Especially in this meta. Like any hero that can level and not like die instantly.
Get rewarded for leveling, basically, right?
Yeah, it's pretty solid. So definitely an interesting hero to play, to talk about. I do recommend the hero in particular, especially when that's one thing to mention when the divine, like the good minion types for this hero are in, right? Like if you can hit deflect, if you can hit bronze ward, cleave is kind of iffy. Like you have to like level to 4 and then like insta roll the cleave and have gems in your hand, which sometimes you do, right? But I mean, I wouldn't like not pick the hero because beasts are out. Oh, I can't get a Hydra, right? It's more like good 3s that you can insta get the payoff on. So that is something to keep in mind whenever you do play the hero, but I do think the hero is good overall. For the minion we're talking about, I decided to go with South Sea Captain. Why? I rolled a dice. How many minions are in the...
That's a big dice.
Let me... 144 sided dice, and I hit the South Sea Captain. That's that might not be true. But yeah, I just think it's an interesting minion because you do play it, right? There are some minions that you see it and you just kind of avoid. Like you're like, I don't like this hero. I don't like this minion. I'm not gonna play, right? And captain's it's an interesting one where depending on your situation, depending on what you started with, depending on what how many of them you see at the same time, you know, if you bought a 2/6 somehow before the turn before, right? You're like, oh, okay, I'll take this, da 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 da, right? Especially when people like have scallywags and things like that. Oh, you'll pick it up and then you'll see people like golden versions of this, and then they use it. They use it or they commit to like some type of early game pirate shenanigans, which might be a bait, but who knows? So, I just thought it's an interesting hero, not like obviously amazing, this is the best, or obviously like this is worse, never pick it, right? It's in that like category where you have to kind of think a little bit about what you're looking for and how you think the next couple of turns are going to play out, because like this really only matters in like those early first couple of turns where maybe you're sitting on 2, you're trying to decide what you want to pick up or where you want to go or how you want to stay alive or how you want to progress from that on. So I just thought it was an interesting hero, and we're also running out of interesting minions. Not saying this minion is not interesting, but when you say, "Oh, let's talk about Caligos," we talk about Caligos already. Talk about. I mean, that was last week, to be fair, right?
Yeah.
But those heroes, we all know they're good.
Have we talked about Bran or?
No, but I guess. We could, huh? We haven't talked about
Bran all the time.
Yeah, we haven't talked about Lightfang. I haven't put Mithrax here, right? This would just be like a, Mithrax, so good. Wow, when you travel into it, wow, what an amazing.
One of the few cards I actually want on fire.
Yeah, right, I mean, like we all know what we're gonna say for some of these, like, oh, Bran, yeah. When you get Bran, especially early, you have the setup, you have tokens, and you're bored.
Battle cries is great with battle cries.
But when it comes to South Sea Captain, it's like, okay. I mean, this is a card I sometimes take, so, in the right situation. It's a little bit more nuanced, right? So I think that's sometimes interesting when it comes to these type of discussions, more so than the, oh yeah, Baron, Death Rattles, yes, like that kind of thing. But
yeah, no, the Captain's definitely a bit more niche. I think it's worth mentioning that it's an excellent pair as they buff each other. That's one of the better uses of this, and there's some cool little things you can do as well.
Really cool with Vol'jin.
Vol'jin, indeed. You might not notice, but the aura gets added to the swap. So if the captains are 4/4s and then you swap them, they turn into 5/5s. It's pretty funny, but that's how it works. You swap the 4 onto the other one, so it turns into a 4, and then the aura reapplies. And same thing with like Murloc War Leeches and stuff. I think Lich King is also interesting with this. If you get Scallywag and you reborn Scallywag with Captain, it's actually quite strong. It's like, wow, it's a bit like Scam Comp, where you get early on, get an additional 3 damage and an additional 2 damage. That's pretty good for a reborn. That's decent value. Sometimes as well with Swabby early, it just allows me to level a little easier. There's, when you're buying a Swabby, I was talking about how I like to tier on 6 gold a decent amount of the time now, and just being able to buy a Swabby and then captain above the Swabby, that also works a reasonable amount of time. But I think for the most part, it's Vol'jin shenanigans, and they're a pretty decent pair. And then obviously, patches. This is like the best the best hero power on patches early. It's so good.
Basically alive. The game begins if you get a captain on patches.
Yeah, like when you hit a captain, it'll like sit up straight and you chill. All right, I might not die this time. Let's go. Let's get some loggers.
You ever take like 19 damage versus the patches early? It's because they have like a golden captain, or something like that. Yeah, so it's fun card. Sometimes not like obviously great, but has some synergy, especially if you already have pirates on your board or you have like the 2/6, right? Sometimes you have people take the 2/6 and then the next turn they'll buy like a captain or 2.
3/7 is super solid. So.
Yeah, or a 4/8, like that's you're good.
Also, if you triple into Eliza, it's fine to have one of these around, right? Just put it in the front.
Yeah, so put it in the front, but then they'll die, Shady. You're not even using the ability. Like, I
Just
don't
gotta
know.
believe that the Eliza HP buff will save it.
That's
Live,
fair.
my little captain.
Yeah, but overall, pretty. I mean, I don't know what to say. It's a card that does things. I wouldn't like recommend you pick it up or like it's super strong. You just have to be aware of your board state and what you're doing with this card. You know, it's not like a bad card. It's early if you have synergy, but I wouldn't buy it without any synergy, if that makes sense, right? Like if I wouldn't like look at this and be like, I have no pirates. Let's buy. I mean, there are some cases where it's just the best minion in your shop, right? You level. You're saying did I level, but then you just go to 3. So never mind. So yeah, I mean, it's not you wouldn't force it, but if the synergy is there, then you take it, I guess.
Yeah, niche cards, just very good with synergy, but underwhelming without.
Yes, sir. All right, moving on to our next topic. We have got leveling to 6. Shady and Collins. Yeah. So I think in
That is
this
so good.
I think in this meta you've really embraced, I guess the word, the spirit of leveling, just going to 6 and like trying to figure out how does it come, just because there's so much like different potentials that open up, right? The more you level, right, the more interesting board states, the stronger board states you can kind of create. So when you just you level all the time, or you do it right, you get used to it, right, you're able to kind of find the flow of things, right? Be like, okay, yeah, this is the time to level. Let's go. Okay, transition time. Let's not die. Let's get strong. Yeah, that kind of thing. But definitely take it away, right? I've been off this week.
Sure. But I think indeed the flow is the right word, where once you get really comfortable leveling, you just feel where like, okay, now is the turn. Because in many games, there is a moment where you can level, and there is this one magical turn where if you miss it, you're too late and you're not going to spike hard enough. And if you're too early, you're going to take too much damage and you die.
Oh man.
So, what's
You're
up?
you're just reminding me of those moments, right? There'll be
Yeah.
some times where I'm like, I'm so scared to level, so I'm like, okay, I'll just roll, and then like as I'm rolling, I'm like, what am I doing?
Why am I rolling? Why?
Yeah, yeah, and then the next turn, like I'm like, I
It's
need
too
to
late
level
now.
last turn. No. Oh man, yeah. So I don't know. You just brought that into my mind.
Yeah, being behind the turn, right, where you could have been a tier higher, but you're a tier lower now, like that is a death sentence in this game, where you're just not going to get the same result anymore. I guess what we can start out with is some different curves on. We can tie it in. So I think what I want to do is I want to cover how to get to tier 5, and then tier 6 is a little bit of a different beast where we can cover that. But in order to get to tier 6, we do have to get to tier 5. So there's a bunch of different ways you can do this. Yeah, unless you're the eagle, then you don't. Just skip 5. Let's go straight to 6. Man, good times. Okay,
That
so
card, why isn't it
yeah,
nerfed already?
good hero. Yeah, good hero. Good hero. Decent hero. So I think almost anyone playing Battlegrounds for a reasonable amount of time knows how the regular curve works, where you level to 3 on 7 gold, and then it just opens up, right? You level to 2 on 4 gold, then on 5 gold you sell something, you buy 2, 6 gold you buy
Okay.
2, 7 gold you level to 3. But then is that question, okay, what do I do now? That's when the game kind of starts. Of course there are some decisions to make before that, but that's where the game starts a lot of the time.
Wow,
And
my game starts when I level to 6. That's interesting, Shady.
yeah, my game's too calls. Honestly, there is some beauty in making it to 6. Like I've started to really enjoy that, these little decisions, right? And that's what we're gonna try to share today. The little decisions that you can make to be alive on tier 6 instead of going to 6 and just dropping dead the turn after. I'm a big fan of going to tier 4 on 8 gold. I think that that is something that we've been doing for a long time, but it was always considered a bit of more power level esque, nothing too crazy, but a bit ahead of the curve. And I think now this is the curve. And I
Yeah,
think if you are staying, yeah, good.
it's kind of like changed and now become the norm, right? Where initially it was a little bit niche. Oh, they're leveling the four. That's weird, you know. Oh, let's both level, you know. So it's fine, you know, or that kind of thing where people were like, oh, let's just level here. I don't like my role. But nowadays it's like, do I not like my shop? Okay, level. Like it's not like a oh, let me wait, let me check, let me see.
Yeah.
It's just like, do I
If
not
you're
like it?
staying on 3, it's because the shop is
It's
amazing, right?
nice,
We're
yeah.
talking like Sensei Deflecto levels where you're like, I guess I buy that. Because I too sometimes buy that shop, but then it's more because then I will level afterwards. I won't just be like, oh, let's just, now roll on 4 afterwards. So the the occasions where you don't do that, it's more just the exception to the rule, where you're playing a cat, you're playing a test, you
Oh
really don't want
yeah.
to lose the rounds, right? Those heroes, they tend to stay lower a bit more. Of course, anyone getting a great shop, but so long story short, it is a norm these days to level to 4 on 8 gold, and that's when the game opens up for me. So on 8 gold you level, and then if you have a money pirate, you can roll one time, exchange the money pirate for a 4-drop. If you're playing Silas and you've set up a ticket, maybe you can sell 2, buy a ticket, get a 4-drop. So if there is anything you can do as your hero, Omo is amazing at this. Omo can just level up and buy something. But if there's anything your hero can do to level and gain an advantage, that's amazing. But it's not required. Then 9 gold is where you're going to make your, I would say, first big decision in this meta, where we talked about how 7 gold was kind of the early game where it's just play some cards. But I think that instead of 8 gold, it's now 9 gold, where really that decisive turn after you've leveled to 4. You have 2 shops on this tier. And what I mean with that is you can level to 5 after spending 1 gold to roll, because tiering to 5 on 9 gold will cost you 8 gold. So that means that you can look at your shop that Bob provides you for free at the start of the turn, and you get to roll 1 time. What I usually do in this position, and of course it depends on what hero I'm playing, I will look at my shop, and if I don't like what I see and I roll 1 time and I still don't like what I see, I will almost religiously just tier up to 5, because I would rather try again next turn and buy strong 5-drops, Light Fang, Mithrax, Mama Bear, etc., than just buying subpar 4-drops and just fall hopelessly behind. There was a time where I wouldn't advise that, where I said the meta is a bit more tempo. It's probably better to just stay on 4 and bunker down, but I don't think that works anymore. And then afterwards, that's where the game really becomes interesting, because then you need to make the most. This is where Collins is probably a bit more of an expert, where all right, you get dropped on tier 5. What do you do? How do you live?
Yeah,
Right? What
that's
is your
one
go-to?
like difference that you do where you roll and see the shop on the extra shop on 4. What I normally do is I just level and then I roll on 5 and see the shop on 5.
Yeah.
So
Collins
I'm
wants to make
over,
sure he doesn't get baited into buying on tier 4. Be like, oh, 2 eggs? Oh,
yeah,
oh,
exactly.
level anyway,
Yeah.
man. Level anyway.
Yes, that's me. I'm not even you know, I a lot of times not even considering the 4 option. Like double egg would be nice, right? Like that would be pretty good. I do admit. But I'm just like, okay, let's just go 5, and then I get the shuffle on 5 and see if I want that. But I think it does make sense, right? Because like even if you roll on 5, right, and you like I do this all the time, right? So you level on 5, you roll, and you see something you like, and you lock. It's kind of the same of essentially in that you could have just not locked and rolled into it too. Like it's not like you're doing anything to saving you money or anything like that. So getting that extra roll on 4 to have that decision to stay on 4 and get a really good power spike that turn is pretty nice. So I do think that is pretty good optimization.
Yeah, it's just those shops where you get mech plus module, taunt plus harbinger. There are just certain shops where you're like, okay, Bobby, I'll buy. Sold, right? I'll take it. Because then when you buy on that turn, you can just level the turn after, and overall you'll probably take less damage. I think right now
that is true. You will take less damage for sure.
I think it's just overall you just buy when the buying is good and you level when it's not, right? And then of course sometimes the buying's never good, and then at some point you're gonna have to settle. But most of the time you're not gonna get all bad shops. Now that's the regular curve, right? Like how we got to tier 5. Then there's 3 other curves I want to cover, but we're not going to be like super in depth because one thing is going to remain constant: the decision on am I going to level to 5 on 9 gold or not. That's just going to keep coming back. I'd say 3 out of the 4 curves they do that, where they are just deciding, okay, I get to roll once on tier 4. If it's bad, I'll just tier to 5 and then I'll buy. The one curve that doesn't do that is a curve I've actually been liking quite a bit, but it's a curve that requires some help. What I mean with that is you're going to need something to smooth out the leveling, because it's
like extra money is what you're saying.
Yeah, a little bit of extra money. Yep. So prize games, right, where you get coins, or you're playing Gallywix to produce extra economy, or you're mutinous so you can eat your units and you get paid for that. It's leveling to 3 on 6 gold, so that's turn 4, and that's coincidentally also the turn you get your prize. So you get to see whether you have the coins or not. And a lot of the time, I will actually try to take damage to be in the bottom 4 to not get the crappy prizes offered, because it makes a difference.
That is an aside, right? I was watching, the tournaments, right, and I was watching a good play. I was watching. Well, they're all good, right? But I was watching someone. He picked Ticketus, right, and then he's just like not playing minions to take damage, and I'm just like. Yeah, Ticketus really makes sense to just make sure you're in bottom 4 because you get double the chance.
You're getting 2 of them.
Yeah,
right?
so
you can't be getting big bananas.
Yeah, so I was just like, yeah, I like this. At first, like before I was like paying attention, I was like, oh, he's memeing. Then I was like, no. This is a logical play here. You're playing Ticketus. You want to make sure you're getting the good shops or the good options. Just don't play your minions, man. Just take some extra damage.
I mean, it's fairly cheap early on, right? You take like 5 extra or something. So yeah, like if you get that extra gold, it smooths the turnout, and you can level on 6 gold. If not, right, you're just gonna have to do a different curve. But the reason why I like that is it opens up this crazy leveling pattern where if you are strong-ish, right, sometimes you will just get good shops, and let's say you are mutinous and you open up with like homunculus and then this anomaly or whatnot, and you just 4 health, buff, then you can level to 4 on 7 gold, which is something that I do quite a bit. But again, you usually check here, right? You can also buy on that 7 gold turn if it's like Deflecto and Whirly, right? The Divine Shield Elemental or Deflecto Sensei. I'm not saying you religiously have to follow that, but a lot of the time I end up tiering on 6 gold, 7 gold, and 8 gold, where I'm tier 5 on 8 gold. And then on 9 gold, I get to spend my money on tier 5. And that has been pretty cool in prize lobbies where things can get out of hand very, very fast, especially if you hit a triple, because then you're tripling into a 6-drop straight away. Now, if at any point you get offered amazing shops, then you just deviate, because I do think that it's better to buy when the buying's good and then just level later on. But if you can get stronger while leveling, a lot of the time that's just amazing. So that curve, like on a Gallywix, on a Mutinous, or just when you get offered coins, that's been pretty cool for me, especially in those prize lobbies. Then you have the traditional power leveling curve.
You might have to like I'm trying to make sure everyone understands. You might can you give an example curve for like, let's say you're playing a Mutinous, for example.
Yeah.
Like
so
how
let's say you're
curve
playing
go
Mutinous.
out? Yeah.
So I'm playing Mutinous and I have found a token.
Yeah. Okay.
So start with a token. Yeah. Then next turn I tier. The turn after that, I eat one of the tokens and I buy 2. That's the 5 gold turn. And then the 6 gold turn, what happens there is that you can sell a token, eat a unit, and then you can still buy something from the shop in tier. So you can either eat the unit that you're buying from the shop, or you can eat something that had on the board to try and buff the unit you buy from the shop. So lots of flexibility here. You can try to get the buff on a ritualist that is usually the best target in the early game, but you can also just randomly, get like a road board, I got a blood gem or something like that. So there's definitely some interesting things there. And then Mutinous in a prize lobby is then even more flexible, because then you can get coins or you can get gotchis. So then you're just like, oh, I can just all the money in the world. Yeah, that would be an example of how a Mutinous levels to tier 3 on 6 gold. Like just one token is required there.
And then on 4, you would eat something and level again.
On 4, you would either eat something and level, or you would just level. Sometimes
No,
it makes more sense.
On 6 gold, or no, it's on 7 gold. That's what I mean.
Well, on 7, if you want to go to 4, it's 7 out of 7. So it actually fits the just.
Oh, you just
level
level
button.
okay. Yeah.
Sometimes you'll still eat and waste the gold, but when you're power leveling that hard,
you need the extra gold. Yeah, okay.
You might want that extra gold. Yeah.
Sure enough.
Yep.
Just wanted to be clear for that.
Yeah, no. It's very good question. It's a very good question. And I've had Mutinous games where I went straight to 5, and then you just like slap Lightfang on your board as Mutinous. And it feels like so cheating, because how often do you have a Lightfang board and you're like, oh, I kind of need to get out of this, and now you're just like, let me just eat it. It's so easy. It's like 10 demon.
I thought you were eating the Lightfang. I was like,
no.
Yeah, I got you. I was like,
and then when you're on tier 5 as a Mutinous, you can just buy Battle Masters and eat them. It's so broken. If you have a brand that's like, what is that, like 60 health?
60 health, yeah. It's not
just
fair.
Like buy Battle Master and
it's
eat.
Not fair, yeah, I agree.
Beautiful things happen on tier 5 Mutinous. So I'm a big believer. But you can't do it every game, of course. Sometimes you don't get the units, sometimes you don't get the tokens, sometimes you take too much damage. But if the conditions are right, being able to go to tier 5 on 8 gold is just beautiful. Then there's 2 more curves. I'm not going to go too in depth again, right? So we have the traditional power leveling curve. We all know that's, my shop is bad, I'm leveling, right? So that's on 5 gold. You sell whatever you started with, preferably a token. Then you level to 3. Then you keep buying units until it's 8 gold. Hopefully you're buying 3 drops. So that's on 6 gold, you're buying 2. And then on 7 gold, you're rolling 1 time and buying 2. And then on 8 gold, it's actually very smooth. The leveling will cost 5 and buying will cost 3, so that's 8. And then there's a tier 1 curve, which we covered last week, so we're not going to go too in depth, but essentially you just stay on tier 1 until you are on 7 gold. 7 gold, you will tier 2 times. You will just hit the tier button, sell 1 thing, hit the tier button again, and the math works out. The main purpose there is to collect triples so that you can then triple them into 5 drops. All right, so that's not all the curves in the game. There's many different curves, but those are the curves I've been using a lot. So those are the ones I'm comfortable endorsing. Right. Any comments, or you want to move on to the next section?
I think that's fair, right? You're pretty much giving them all the curves up to 5, right? How do you get to 5? That kind of thing.
Like we're tying it all together. With, all right, we're on 5. What do we do now?
We're halfway done. Funny we're going to 5. That's half of it. Like, what? Some people are like, I've never seen 5 in my life. I just stay on 4 all day. What does that mean? But yeah, it's definitely interesting. Sure, I like the information, right? I'm just trying to make it clear if there's anything that I'm like, there could be clear.
I think that's perfect. I've been doing this so often that that
is my job here.
Yeah. You're just like, does that explain properly?
Yeah.
Sure.
Let's keep on going.
So this is then the question, when do we go to tier 6? Because that is the thing that is, I think, for a lot of people, the scary thing. They're like, should I go tier 6? I think there's also this mentality from before, especially when I was learning, that going to tier 6 wasn't really a thing. It was more like a meme thing where you're like, just stay on 5 and try to triple into 6s. Of course, for Collins, going to 6, like the first day he played the game, hey, there's 6 tiers. You saw that? There's 6 tiers. You can all the way up to 6. It's amazing.
That sounds correct, yes.
Anyways, the different ways you can get to tier 6. So what is a fast 6? Now, obviously, there are exceptions to this, but I will talk generally for the most part, as that is what's going to benefit you most. Turn 8. So turn 8 is a very fast tier 6.
Yeah.
That's essentially you went to 5 on turn 7, and then you just, boom, hit the button again, tier 6. So when do we want to do that? I think there are some very specific situations where that is possible, but it's also a death sentence a lot of the time. So sometimes you are just very, very strong. You were able to buy Money Pirates early, and then on tier 4, you exchanged Money Pirate for Harbinger so that you could keep leveling while buying a strong unit. You have Acolyte on your board from the early game, you have Harbinger, lots of taunts buffing going on. That's one thing. You can also hit an early triple. This happens a lot when you're, say, playing Rafam. You're playing Rafam, you triple into Eliza, and then the next turn is like, screw it, I'm going up again. Especially when you have a Scallywag already, that is oftentimes acceptable.
Yeah.
But these are the exceptions where, okay, I'm a house. I'm very, very strong. I can afford to level here straight away. Another situation is, hey, I have a ghost. Let's go up, right? So if you have a ghost, there's no point in rolling on 5. Let's just go up, right? So that's lucky. Hey, lucky you. You got the ghost on a very, very good turn. Possibly the best turn in the game to hit a ghost.
Yeah.
Turn 8 going to 6. There's another one where you could just have a read on your opponent that they're very, very weak. We're talking someone that's stuck on tier 3 with no triples. You're just like, they don't really have anything. But I would say that's more of an advanced thing. So if you're not comfortable with it, probably better. There's a good shout out in chat as well. Cthulhu is another one where
I was gonna mention that if you didn't mention it. Okay.
Yeah. But at that stage, sometimes Cthulhu is like, damn, 14 damage, really? 14? So he's like, I died anyway. So I'd say Cthulhu is not a standard level there.
You have to be looking at like how much damage they're putting out, that turn, or like also seeing if they level that turn as well, right? Like, so if you're looking at their history, they dealt like 4, right, and then they just leveled that turn as well, right? Like they didn't change their board that much, most likely, right? And you're as long as you're not like absolutely god awful weak, right? You're probably going to be taking 5 that turn, and if you're like, yeah. So that is something to be looking for. Arana as well can also be there, right? You have to be super scared. I mean, you have to be super aware. Like if they get a triple that turn, then no, because they probably tripled their molten rock, and then they're putting their molten rock in the front, and you can't get through it. And now instead of taking like 6 as everyone else has been taking, you're now taking 14, which is happening to me multiple times against Aranas. And I'm thinking, the Arana, they've been dealing like single digit damage. They hit a triple odds molten rock. I can't bust in through it. Now they're putting it in front, and I can't die. So there is that is something to look into.
The same with Sarlacc Weaver. That's another comp where you're not going to take that much damage because the units have low stars. So.
Yeah, but those are something you can look into for leveling, as other.
Yep. Then I think the third option to go for a fast 6, which is on turn 8, is you went for the fast 5. So you went 5 on turn 7, and then you found stuff like Mama Bear, Mithrax, Whitefang, so Brand Battlemaster. Yeah. So, but this is more I didn't triple into a 6 drop, or I didn't pick up stuff on tier 4. I just found stuff on tier 5. But yeah, we could tie that in. Generally speaking, found stuff, am strong now, or ghost. I think if we really boil it down, those two things, right? Either you're fighting a ghost, or I hit some really good stuff. So when do you go to tier 6 when that doesn't happen? I'd say turn 9 is probably where you want to be going to tier 6, because turn 10 feels too late. And I'll elaborate a little bit on that, where on turn 9, you've spent turn 8 buying 5 drops to stabilize and get a bit stronger. And then the turn after that, you get to tier and you get to set it up a little bit. You get to buy a brand, you get to freeze a Primal Fin, or you get to buy an Agam, you get to look for the Flat Tusk, you get to, blah, 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 blah. So you set yourself up a little bit. You already get a little bit of that direction and you know where you want to be headed. You either have a great menagerie set up, or you have 1 or 2 dragons for Cali. You have a brand, or you have your Mithrax to carry. And then you can go to tier 6 to get more direction. It feels like when you go to tier 6 on turn 10, you need to already have direction, and tier 6 needs to be really a supplement where, I'm already running a menagerie. I can now go up for a Malgadon, but I'm already strong. I already have double Mithrax. I already have double Light Fang. It's not, it's turn 10 and my board is kind of ass. Let's just go up and find some Callies, because it's at that moment you're going to find the Callies and then you're dead, because it's going to take too long to take off. Because at that point, other people, they're starting to hit their triples. They're starting to roll on tier 5, and they have a lot of stars on their boards. If you lose a fight there can be this like random strong shell that's still on the board. Bam, that's an extra 5 damage in the back. So there's definitely a lot of damage being dealt around turn 9, turn 10. So it's in that spot where you definitely want to spike.
If you are going to level the 6, there's definitely a small window of opportunity where you can level here, not die, spike, and stabilize. Whereas if you wait that extra turn and you don't win anyways, you take less damage. Now when you level, everyone else is leveled before. Like everyone that's gonna level is already leveled, and then they're spiking the turn you're leveling. Right? That's so much worse than taking the damage and spiking the same turn, right? Because if you level and then they spike, you take, that's when you're taking 30, because they've just played like, oh, here's 6, here's
tripled into a boat or something.
Yeah, here's all my 6 drops, and you are leveling. You have a couple 2s, 3s, 4s, maybe, right? You're gonna take so much, so you have to spike same time, or don't spike at all, and just stabilize at the lower tier. Just to clarify.
Yep. No, I think it's good to point that out. There's a very limited window, and I think that's why it's not a thing that you see super often, because there is this very, very limited window. But man, the payoff, I can tell you guys, it's been working so well for me. So there's this huge, huge payoff of being on tier 6, because a lot of things open up. Now,
just want to clarify, results may vary. Shady is pretty good.
It's difficult, right? I will keep pointing that out. You continuously need to. Okay, so there's a concept that I was going to say for later, but we may as well just open it out. Don't be greedy while you're being greedy. I think that's the best way to explain
I do this a lot.
Yeah, but you're an expert, and sometimes it blows up in your face, and you're like, yeah, that was too much, right? So
it's slow calibrations over time.
Here's what it means, right? So if you're already being greedy while tearing up, don't also try to sneak in the pair. Don't also try to hold the card for next turn. Now, there are obviously moments where, taking a pair is better, because the pair is like only marginally worse, and you could high roll the triple. There's moments where, I kind of can hold this Murazon for next turn because the last guy's board was bad. Sure, there are moments where that's working, but if you're not confident, if you're not sure, just the mantra is, while you're leveling, you also do everything you can to be as strong as possible, because you're already going to be weaker than the other person, because you're dumping your money into levels and they're not. What you can hope is that they're being greedy with some stuff, so that even though they've dumped their levels into buying units, they're not actually that strong on the board. And if you then push back with everything you have, put all your money into tempo, then there is a decent chance that you tie. And those are the best funds, where you're a tier above the opponent and you tie. And it's like, oh, yes, like I'm not taking, an extra 8 damage here. So that can be the difference. And yeah.
I've been in those situations where I don't level and I tie, and I'm like, I've lost. Like,
oh, I'm behind. I'm so behind. Yeah.
How can I not level and he's still beating me? Oh my god, it's whatever. It's so troll. But yeah, you do have to be careful. And playing for tempo, especially if you're leveling, is a good way to do that.
Okay. All right. So then we've wrapped on tier 6. Hallelujah. Right. But what do we do now? Because it's not over yet.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh no. You don't just win when you hit 6. What? That's
No,
my whole game plan. What? You don't just win? What? You have to now play the
bullshit.
game? What?
You have to now play the game.
What?
Uh,
No.
because the next turn or two are going to decide whether it's top one or you're dead.
Yeah.
So there's a couple different things. We'll first cover if you leveled with a weak board. So that means you hit the ghost.
My favorite.
Yeah, so you hit the ghosts and you tier to 6. What do? This is where the first thing that matters is getting 7 units on the board. Because extra, sometimes you'll want 6 units, right? Sometimes it's worth it where you either have like an matron that spawns an extra thing, or you have a boat, or blah blah blah. But a lot of the time, just getting your 7th unit on the board is pretty good. Because a lot of the time when you power level to 6 on turn 8, you're not full board. You don't have 7 units. So what are the units you're really looking for? Boat, coiler, imp mama, mama bear, all these like high tempo, immediate like bang for your buck, put stats on the board right now. Now, when I say mama bear, obviously preferably a beast together in the shop, but sometimes it's like mama and roll, right? Where you take the chance. But anything that just boom, value now, stats. That might also mean Void Lord Harbinger. Preferably, of course, I'll take a boat and a coiler, but Void Lord Harbinger, you're probably gonna have to take it because you don't have that much money to roll. And this will be the exception to the rule, because usually I'm a big proponent of just rolling on 6 and say, don't settle. Make sure you get good cards. But when you've leveled and you don't even have 7 units, and some of your units are like Alley Cat, and you're just like, oh my God, I'm in so much trouble if you don't get strong right now. So you do just die, right? If you're being greedy at that stage. So that's where you fill the board with tempo units.
Rough.
Any comments or?
No, I agree. I do think that is something you do have to be aware of when you are leveling to 6, right? I mean, if your board is like Alley Cats, that's a rough situation. You don't have a full board and you have Alley Cats. Man, you really need to hit the nuts though, right? Like in that one turn, right? Because I mean, I guess if you have both Harbinger and Void Lord, it might be enough to like maybe stabilize, right? Because like what you need to do is not die, right? Like that's the key, right? Getting that extra full turn to restabilize, get the hits, right? So if you are getting a little bit stronger where you can contest and not get like one shot, right? That is pretty important, right? So I mean, being a little bit picky is pretty important, to be fair, in terms of like one M Mama is better than like 3-4 cards sometimes, like
yeah, units, but I mean, we definitely don't want to be picky in that we're looking.
You're not coming through for some reason.
Oh, okay. So I think you're it's true where, man, this is such a complicated concept, because you do need to be a little picky for cards to be high enough tempo, but not picky in like, oh, this isn't direction. That's probably the best thing, right? People might say boat, that's not direction. Coiler, that's not direction. But those are the cards especially that you need in that particular spot when you have done that very fast tier 6.
I've got a little question for you. You're in that situation. You've got one turn. You see the flat tusk. What do you do?
It depends. Is it if it's at the start of the shop, sure, because then it's coming in with +2/+2 as well.
Let's say you have, I guess, 7 gold.
So 7 gold left. Is there anything else in the shop or not?
No, it's just a flat tusk.
Yeah, I mean, if my health is low enough, I'm scared enough of my opponent, then I can skip
it. Yeah, that hurts, and I think a lot of players will not do that.
They just don't have the discipline.
Yeah, they'll take it and then roll, and then they're like nothing,
oh man,
and then they die. You die with Cali Ghost, right? This is how people die with Cali Ghost. They die with flat tusk, right? They're like, oh, you take it when you need a more tempo unit. So that's definitely something that does arise where you get baited by the good units, but they don't give you immediate tempo while you're still.
Yeah. In that turn, you need to see them for what they are. A 9/6 that gives +1/+1 is like, that's not that great.
Yeah, so yeah, I do want to mention that, like, just like being aware that some of the cards you might love with this strategy might not be the like perfect at that same time.
Oh, that's a good heads up for sure, for sure. Anyways, that is a very very specific window, though, right? That is when you
Yeah,
have
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah, yeah,
arrived
yeah.
on tier 6, because things change quite a bit the turn after, or if you were already strong tiering to 6.
Oh yeah.
If you were already strong tiering to 6, or it's the turn after you've bought your tempo units on 6, that's when it's time to get the comp together. That's when it's time to make sure that we get to scale and win the game.
Buy all the flat
So
tusks, basically.
that's when you buy the flat dust. But it's also still fine to buy Coiler
Mm-hmm.
Imp Mama if you still have cards on your board that are fairly weak. It's just that in this particular turn, you're really looking for a few cards. So I've got them listed here as premium hits. Eliza is just the pretty much uncontested number one. She's just so good because instant tempo, instant power on the board, and you have future, right? You can play the scam comp. Scam comp can take lobbies and does so very consistently. But then Genie is also kind of surprising, right? Genie is not something we usually think about when we think about grade 6 drops, but Genie is amazing when you're on tier 6 because it can produce 6 drops. So now you can get more rag. Now you can get Malgadon.
If you played the meta where Genie was a 5,
Sure.
you would
Sure.
know, you would understand because it was a
Yeah.
5, but it had the same options as
Yeah.
it does now.
I never
But
did that.
yeah, so you knew how good it was. It was like, oh, I won the game, essentially. So yeah, it's the same. If you're on 6, then it's the same power level.
It's like Genie's back, baby.
Yeah, but you have to be on
Yeah,
6. So yeah.
just produces some crazy boards. And I would say Rag is on a similar thing, just because we talked about that last week, where Rag triple into Rag. Ugh. Buy Rag when you're on 6, right? Because then you can faceless it, you can find another Rag, you can get it from that Genie or so. So yeah, very very cool. Mama Bear, I think, is still fine. I think it's just a good card in this meta.
Used to be a
I've
6 drop. Like
Yeah,
it's
she's
like
she's
it's fine.
and she's 5/5 again. So
Yeah,
it's actually the 6 drop.
yeah.
So yeah, they buffed Mama Bear, and I didn't really think it was necessary, but I play Mama Bear a decent amount of the times, and you can always transition out of it. And the cool thing is you can play Mama Bear right before you play Ramalgadon for an additional adapt and a guaranteed 5/5.
Do
So
you remember earlier, like it was in a different podcast? I was like, oh, I played Mama Bear quite a decent amount, and I think it was like I think it was like there was a guest upon it, and you guys were like, "Nah, that was very weird." Like, oh, it's because I need to go to 5 and stabilize, and Mama Bear's
yeah,
what I need to stabilize, and you guys are like, "Oh, we just stay on 4, and kill people." And I was just like,
yeah. That's
it's
true. That's true. I did not play much Mama Bear at all at that point.
funny. Right? I just thought it was, like as you're talking, I'm like, "Oh, that reminds me of me." A while back. But yeah, it's interesting how things change a little bit, right? As you play a different style, like you said, right? It's like a different game.
Yeah, it's suddenly you start appreciating that card because it is instant power,
Yeah.
right? Not much scaling, but Mama has instant power. Let's have a look. So yeah, so we got Mama Bear, and then of course there's Callie. Callie is a little trickier, I will say, than a Genie, because you do need to have dragons on your board as well. And I would say this is probably the number one mistake I see people make when they're playing Callie on tier 6. They buy Scalebane, they buy Bronze Warden sometimes, right? But still, you're on tier 6. That's a lot of money for a Bronze Warden on tier 6, right? There is just such explosive things that can happen for the money that you spend on that Bronze Warden. The next shop might have just had another Caligos. Razor Gore, sure, we can talk about, but there are just these things where people waste their money the moment they have a Caligos, where they start to go in this, like, okay, Caligos sequence enabled, buy 4 dragons first, don't do anything else with money, then buy Battle Cry, and it kills you. You're dead.
What happens is that they see that battle cry and then they forget they're on tier 6, right? It's like they think they've tripled into a Kelly
Yeah.
on 5, and they play like they've tripled into a Kelly instead of playing like I'm on 6. I can just roll another Caligus. I do this
Yeah.
sometimes. I will admit, like there's been, I definitely get baited. It's also, this is what I've seen a lot of people like get a Cali and then the next turn their board is weaker. Like, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
you've killed yourself because
They just yeah. It's totally fine to just have Caligos with 2 other dragons for the moment, because the goal is to add Amalgadon. When you're on tier 6, that's always the end goal. The end goal is add 2 Amalgadons. So you just know that, especially if you have Bran and Murlocs in, you're gonna get those Amalgadons, right? If not, then tough luck. But that is usually what you're gunning for, and you just need to have faith that your board will fill itself, right? How often have you played the game and be like, I just don't have enough cards to put on my board? It's like, that doesn't happen. It's always like, I gotta sell something, right? So really don't waste your gold buying shitty dragons on tier 6 to get your Calicos off the ground.
I mean, Bronze Warden's not a shitty dragon. Let's be nice.
Sometimes it is, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you just roll into Nadina, like, oh, it was the Mind Shield anyway. Okay, cool. Glad I wasted 2 gold on that. But yes,
Yeah, true.
sometimes it just fits, right? Sometimes the money fits, or you're playing Silas and it has a ticket, and you're like, okay, I guess, right? But a lot of the time, it's a waste of money in my experience, because there's, especially with Hamul as well, right? You can just buy a Hamul. Hamul can then give you more Caligos, can give you a Malgadon. Regardless, right? So, bit of a side note on what to do when you get the Cali. It's not fill your board with crappy dragons. It's roll for Amalgadon, roll for more Cali. Once you have 2 Calis, sure, then maybe picking up a Bronze Warden and the Battle Cry in the shop is good enough. Yeah. And then Bran, I think Bran is just, when Murlocs are in, when you can play Elementals, Bran is just this amazing card on tier 6. It just takes everything to the next level, because especially when you can then faceless get a golden Bran, like, oh my god, just so many good things happen with Bran on 6, and most of it is just preparation for Amalgadon, because that is such a nice feeling when you're on tier 6 and you open a Primal Fin, you play the Primal Fin, Amalgadon for free, let's go. So yeah, huge fan of picking up Bran on that turn as well.
You've talked a lot about Amalgadon, but I don't see Amalgadon on your list.
Oh, that's an auto include.
Okay, just
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, I'll add that there. Okay, so we've had that turn. That is the turn 9, I believe. Turn 8, you've tiered up really fast, and then either on turn 9 or on turn 10, this is your turn. And then it's just pop off, really. So what do you want to be doing? You want to have Rags and Gar. You want to have multiple Cali. You want to have Bran with Amalgadon and Cali. You want to have Golden Bran. You want to have double Mama Bear, double Macaw, Goldren. You want, like your board, you need to be ambitious. You are on tier 6. You've taken a chance to get here. Now it's time to close it out and actually win the game. Okay. So I have this segment here as well on what not to do.
Okay.
We talked about not settling. So this is really this archetypal example that I see so often, especially when I see people that are, myself included, when I was learning this. We do not go to tier 6 to buy Menagerie Jug. It's like write it on the blackboard, right? Because it's such instinctive buy. You're like, Jug, buy, good card. Tier 4, yes. Tier 5, sure. Tier 6, no. Come on, give us the good stuff. Get the Eliza, get the Cali, get the Rag. I see this so often where people do go to 6 and then they just spend 9 gold on just garbage, and I'm just like, wow, just please roll 2 times, see some shops, open a double Hogger, open an Eliza, open that Rag, open the Cali, because if you're not going to be rolling for those units, then you should not have tiered to 6. I get that it's scary, right? You can buy the Jug and get the guaranteed value. It's right there, or you can roll. If you roll, you can miss, but if you don't try, you've already missed. So that is probably the biggest thing. You need to spike, you need to be ambitious. And the more you play it, the more you're going to get a feel for what is reasonable to expect. especially when you have a faces in the hand. It's just roll, just go, right? Just yeah. Do you like? Let's say you have a deflecto on your board and you open another deflecto. You don't use the faces on the deflecto to get like, oh, I get a 6-drop. It's like, no, roll and copy and get 2 6-drops, right? That's how it works.
Oh, that's really wow. I need to learn. I need to write that. Write that down. Write that down. Don't triple deflecto. Actually, just triple the 6 on the shot. Wow.
Get the 6-drop, right?
It's actually genius.
It's just what kills you when, let's say you've done everything right up to this point. If you start settling now, you get 4th or 3rd, and then you've taken that risk and all that work, and it's been for very little return. When we're at the spot, we do want to go for 1st.
This actually reminds me of Storybook so much, because you can't force the levels, right? And normally you get the 6 whenever you hit the 6, right? But since you can't control, like you can't hyper level, everyone knows once you hit 6, you need to be picking up 6. If you don't pick up 6, why are you at 6, right? So as soon as people hit 6, boom, their board is just 6 drops, right? Because they know instinctively, I can't be on 6 rolling, picking up 5 pairs or whatever, right? Yeah. It's not good enough. So it's funny that this strategy is like the normal strategy there, because you have to do it. You can't control your leveling, so when you do hit the level, you have to get those 6s, otherwise you're dead. So it's like funny when you're talking about this. I'm like, yes, this happens in all of my games.
I mean, it's an auto battler, right? Yeah. So indeed, it's cool. Yeah, it's cool to see those concepts just apply in different games as well.
Literally every game you have to do it. So it's just like, oh yeah.
I mean, this has been almost every game for me. Yeah, so it's you can turn a game into this. I would say that would be the main point, because the other point would be playing overly greedy, but we've already covered that, right? Where I say don't be greedy while you're being greedy, just go for full tempo. You've already gone for tier 6. Don't also hold a bunch of cards in your hand. Don't just, but as always, there are exceptions to this rule. There are times where you go to 6 and you're going to hold a Primal Fin because you're like, I could hit a Brand next turn, right? And like, if I play it this turn, there's not actually that much to gain. There are moments where you're going to hold that 1 Battle Cry because you have your 2 Callies and you're like, I'm pretty likely to win anyway. I don't want to waste the gold. So these things are going to happen. But until you're comfortable with this playstyle, I would say don't take the chance. Play full tempo every turn, because, at that stage of the game, it might be deceptive, because your board might look slightly weaker because you've you've invested that gold into tiering. Someone else that hasn't tiered to 6 and that just pumped full tempo the whole time, like a Jandis that's been on tier 5, their board might just be crazy, crazy strong.
Very, very true. Sure. If you've got anything to add, I'm pretty content with this.
All right, cool. I guess the very last thing I would say, whenever you want to go to 6, ask yourself, what could I be playing? Because sometimes, right, like elementals are out.
Oh yeah, Pirates you do. That's true. You have to look at the what's in. That's actually very important.
Yeah, because sometimes I'll still go to 6, but I'm just there's not that much to go to 6, but I can roll into Dong. But those are the games that I'm feeling very strong and comfortable. Yeah, I think especially when Pirates are out, elementals are out, Quillboars are out. What are you buying?
Yeah,
Callies, right? Specifically Callie, right? So but yeah, Eliza is just such a powerhouse that whenever Pirates are in, I find a reason to go to 6. It's just like, all right, I can roll into Eliza. There we go. Enough reason. Flat Tusk Agam, yeah, those are cool, right? You can roll into that. Elementals, I've recently been really big on elementals. I've had so many elemental games where I just, make it work. And it's so much fun when you have Brand and the Brand just becomes a 40-40 because the Rag is passing the buffs to the Brand. And then you can play the 4/4 that puts the elementals in the shop. You can play the 4/4 that puts the elementals in the hand and the Gar and then the buff and then the pew, pew, pew. It's tons of fun.
Especially with
if all those 3 are out, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Earlier we've had some discussion about elementals being, bad, or like you remember that situation. Oh, sixes. Oh, our elementals in. Don't play six. Don't get a six, right? Like you remember that kind of thing, right? Which I honestly could still be true, right? Like don't triple into the six, but you could still level the six and do elemental stuff, right? But the addition of Hamul is what I was referring to
Oh,
specifically.
right.
Has changed how you look at the elemental strategies, how you look at some of these different scaling strategies, being able to buy the Hamul and then just have a full board, maybe have a Malgadon in there as well, right? Of just like things that you could use and then pop off. So it's really changed how you level the six and how effective it can be. So that is something to um, appreciate, right? I wasn't a fan of the card initially, but the more you play, right, it opens up more strategies than it prevents, right? Like it only really prevents you. You're hoping for one thing, and then you triple that into the six, and then it's in there with a zap, right? But if you go to six, it opens up so much more different play styles. So I kind of like it now. I think it's been
Yep.
surprisingly
Yeah,
effective.
card has really grown on me as well.
Yeah. Um, but
Yeah, that would be it. I think we've talked a lot and poured a lot. I think this is one of those episodes that you can definitely rewind and just be like,
yeah,
all right,
like,
let's actually see. Well, let's go back to the beginning. How am I getting to six?
yeah. I thought this was gonna be a short one, like I always think. Just looking at the topics for today, it's legit 3. But somehow we always find a way. I don't know how we do it, but apparently we
Yeah.
always find
Well,
a
this
way.
was basically Collins telling me, "Hey, do you have a topic?" And I'm just like, "Okay, let me just write about what I've been doing." Okay, this is turning into a guide. Okay, sure.
Speaking of that, you are writing or making like a little guide, right?
Well,
Something
this
to
is
be.
the thing. I don't know really. I guess I can publish it.
This is
But
the guide,
yeah,
honestly.
pretty much what we've been
You
talking
should
about.
publish it and then just be like, just watch this episode.
Watch the
Actually,
podcast.
yeah, like it's a good idea, shit. Like no joke. But any final thoughts on that?
I think the game is just exceptionally fun in this way, where if you are prepared for some heartbreaking losses where you were very close to
Mm.
learn this strategy, I think it's so much fun. And especially if you're willing to APM a little bit, you can have these like really fun turns with like elementals and like especially if you're playing something like a Gallywix on tier 6. My god. So much cool stuff you can do.
Why did you have to remind me of all the heartbreaking losses I've had since the beginning of the game? Just a flashback of, oh yes, I remember this. Oh this. Oh,
Collins' career flashing before his eyes, like all those times I died on 6 though.
oof. But yeah, pretty good strategy, good games. Um, I would say it's a good game strategy, but I'm biased, as hell. So
Collins approved.
yeah, definitely my stamp of approval here. But I think if that is it, if that is all, that will be it for us today. Unless you have anything else to add, but I think you're good. So
I think we covered it. Yep.
yeah. So look out for the guide if he does decide to post it. But thank you guys for joining us here today. Thank you for joining us in this episode of the podcast. It's always fun talking to Shady about the game. And thank you everyone for participating. Appreciate your feedback, improvement, and comments. And if you want to send us some feedback, HSBG podcast at gmail.com. You can reach me Twitch and everywhere else. You can reach Shady Bunny on Twitch and everywhere else. And I think that will be it for us today. Take care. If you guys want to sign up to the tournament, sign up in the chat. If you guys want to watch some casting, you can watch it in the tournament. You can watch Nicolita's tournament. And you can also watch out for the guide if he decides to make it. But now that I've said it publicly, he probably has to do it. So feels good. But that'll be it for us. And we'll see you guys next time.
See you guys.